tonight, we're stepping into a new year, a new semester, and we are starting a new series tonight called Light It Up. And we're going to be asking this question in this series: what are you known for? Like, what are you known for? We all have different things, right, that we're known for, and we know people that are known for things. We know companies that are known for things, brands, celebrities. Like, they all have their shtick, they all have their stuff that they're known for. But when was the last time that you stopped and asked the question, like, what am I known for? Like, when people think about me, what do they think? Like, what are you known for? Well, what would people say? Okay, so I want you to be real for just a second. Now, you don't have to, like, shout it out. You can just think it in your head. But, like, what adjectives would people use to describe you? Like, that's kind of a scary question sometimes, right? I'm not sure I want to know what people would say to describe me. But what habits would people, like, portray on you? What would they say about you? What is it that you are known for? What kind of roommate are you? Uh-oh, we're getting serious now, right? What kind of boyfriend are you? What kind of girlfriend are you? Like, what are you known for? When you walk in the room, have you ever thought about this? Like, when you walk in the room, how does that make people feel? When someone says your name, this has been a little bit of a gut check. I've been thinking about this over the last few weeks. When someone says your name, what do people think? Like, what are you known for? Now, we all have things that we're known for, right? Normally, it's about a very specific thing. I want to give you a few examples. Maybe you have a reputation for being the late one. Okay, don't point fingers. Okay, we know who the late ones are because they just walked in the room. Okay, it started like 30 minutes ago, but they just got here because they're the late one. It doesn't matter like where they're going or what they're doing. They always tell you they'll be there in 15 minutes. Right? Like, they're still in bed. Their phone woke them up when you called them. They were supposed to be there 10 minutes ago. They're still in their PJs, and they're like, oh, yeah, I'll be there in 15 minutes, right? But they have the reputation. Some people are like, that's me. They have the reputation of being the late one. Now, it's okay. No one's judging. Okay, that's a lie. Everyone's judging you. Quit being late. It's just rude, okay? But you have the reputation of being the late one, or maybe, I don't know, probably none of y'all in this room, but maybe you have the reputation of being the messy one, right? You have roommates. I said no pointing fingers, okay? You have roommates, and y'all sit down and you're watching this week's episode of The Bachelor, right? And you're just like chowing down on some spaghetti, and you get done, and you have your bowl, and you just take it and you just put it on the counter. You don't like rinse it out. Like 3 days go by, it gets all crusty and gross, and stuff starts growing in the bowl that wasn't in there when you ate the spaghetti, right? And here's what's just sad to me. Like, you couldn't even go and grab the bowl and move it 3 feet and put it in the dishwasher. You just left it there. Because, first of all, you're gross, but you have a reputation for being the messy one. Or maybe you have the reputation, and I know there's some people like this in this room, you have the reputation for never texting back. The worst part, even when you have on the read receipts, I know you read my text message, right? Like, I get it. You're busy, right? You're busy. You can't respond to every text immediately. I get that. You do you. But when you have the read receipts on and you read the text, it's like taunting someone. It's like, yeah, I read your text. You're just not important enough for me to text you back, right? Some of you have a reputation for just being slow to communicate and slow to text back and kind of inconsiderate, but that's okay. Okay, now it's time to get personal. Some of us have the reputation for being the sarcastic one, right? Maybe it's just me. Everything has a punchline. You're kind of afraid of tension, and so things start to get serious, and you feel like you got to tell a joke or make some witty remark because it's just a little uncomfortable because you have the reputation of being the sarcastic one, and normally it's at someone else's expense. Some of us have the reputation of being, how do I say this? I've never done this in my life. Being the competitive one, okay? I've heard rumors that some people get really competitive at 9 Square. Okay, I don't know, but I've heard. Maybe you'll see it later. I'm not sure. But some of you have the reputation for being the competitive one. Like, there is no such thing as a game. It's war. There is a winner. There is a loser. I am the winner. If you're on my team, you're going to win. If you're not, sorry. Right? So you have the reputation of being like the competitive one, and it kind of gets to the point where no one wants to play any games with you. Right? Because like a game of Uno is a death match. They're kind of afraid of what's going to happen. And so you have the reputation of being the competitive one. Or maybe you have the reputation of being the defensive one. Now, I'll be real. This is something that I struggle with. Like, there are always things as a leader that I want to get better at. But this is one for me, like, that I'm working through because I have the potential normally to be the defensive one, because at the end of the day, like, and I'm not even trying to be funny, my default setting is I believe I'm always right, okay? Most of the time I am, but I believe that I'm always right. And that's fine, except that makes me defensive, right? I'm not a mean person, but it can make me seem unapproachable, because people are like, he's just going to get defensive. He's like, what's the point of even going and talking to him? Some of you have the reputation for being the defensive one. Somebody says something you don't want to hear, and so you push back. You don't want feedback. You want to fight back, right? So you have this reputation of being the defensive one. We all have different things that we're known for, and as funny or convicting as that list is, like, we know we fall somewhere. That list could be much longer. There are a lot of things that we're known for, but we all have these things. And if we're honest, like, it's okay. I don't mind people knowing some of those things about me. Like, I really don't. I don't care if you know that I'm the sarcastic one, or if I have the reputation for being the one to not text back or being late somewhere. Like, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. In fact, there are some things in our life we go out of our way to make sure people know about us, right? We want them to know that we're smart, or that we're pretty, or that we're rich. We want them to know, y'all are like, rich, what's that? We want them to know, like, who we're dating, like, right? Hey, check it out. Look who I'm dating, or look who I'm in this picture with. Like, there are certain things we want people to know about us, what kind of car we drive. We want to have a reputation of being nice, of being caring, of being loving. And so there certainly are all of these different areas and all these different things in our life that we're known for. But as many things as we're known for, if we're honest tonight, you don't have to be honest with me, but if you're honest with yourself, as much as you are known for, there are still things that nobody knows, right? We all have those areas. We have those secrets. Maybe there's an addictions, those things that we're like, no, those things are off limits. Those are the things that we like hide away, because we convince ourselves that if our friends knew about that, if they knew about that secret, if they knew about that addiction, if they knew about our story, if they knew about that abuse, if they knew about that self-harm, they wouldn't accept us anymore. They wouldn't love us anymore. So there are certain things in our life that we tend to hide away, and we hope that no one can see. Now tonight, I want to look at a story out of John chapter 4, and it's about a woman having a conversation with Jesus over a glass of water. Let's check it out. Now, he had to go through Samaria, so he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar. Near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph, Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food, and the Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock?" And Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." And the woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." This is like the easiest sales pitch in the world, right? Jesus is sitting here in the middle of the day and he's having this conversation with this woman. They're talking about different kinds of water. And they're like, okay, you've got Dasani and you've got Nestle, and then there's that weird smart water. Does that really make you smart? Like, I don't think it makes you smart, but they claim that it does. And then all the rage now, there's sparkling water and flavored sparkling water and non-flavored sparkling water. But my personal favorite, like if I'm just comparing water to water, like my personal favorite is living water. And the lady's like, whoa, wait, what? Like, I've heard of all that other stuff. I've heard of sparkling water and Dasani and smart water, but I've never heard of this living water. Like, can I have some of that? Like, give me some of that living water. I'm on board for that. It was like super easy. Just like that, Jesus convinces her. And then the story continues in verse 16. He told her, "Go call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. And Jesus said to her, "You're right. When you say you have no husband, the fact is you've had 5 husbands. And the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true." Now, this is the point of the story where if you're standing there, you're probably going to pull Jesus aside. Be like, "Hey, Jesus, like, okay, I know, like, you're the Son of God. I know you can, like, walk on water. That's pretty cool. And you can, like, heal blind people and raise people from the dead. You're the beginning and the end. You know all things. Like, awesome, Jesus, really cool. But why did you have to bring her dead husbands into it, Jesus? That's pretty cruel. Like, what are you doing, Jesus?" I mean, it seems like Jesus is being really cruel. Why would he try to embarrass this woman and like bring up her story, bring up her past, like they're just sitting at the well drinking some water? It's like if you went to Lupa's or Starbucks and you're just having a casual conversation and all of a sudden the person sitting across the table starts throwing some serious shade. You're like, "Oh my gosh, it's just a Frappuccino. Like, slow down." Like that seems to be what's happening, but actually what Jesus is doing in this moment is one of the most loving things that he could possibly do for this woman. It's one of the kindest things that he could do because in this moment, Jesus is sitting there with this woman who he probably shouldn't be talking to based on cultural norms and what's acceptable, but he's sitting there and he's letting this woman know, "Hey, I know your story. I know who you are. I know what you've been through. Like, I know the things that you try to hide. I know the things that you've been holding back, not just the things that you have a reputation for, being a Samaritan, being a woman. Like, not just the stuff on the surface. Like, I actually know your story, but guess what? I love you anyway." And this is so beautiful to me because we all have a story kind of like this woman, right? Maybe you don't have 5 husbands. I don't know, maybe you do. If you do, come talk to me afterwards. I want to hear your story. But maybe you don't have 5 husbands, right? But we all have a story kind of like this woman. We have a past. We have a history. We have wounds. We have secrets. We have things that we don't want people to know. And as I was listing off things a minute ago, like maybe your mind went to a dark place when you started thinking about what people know about you and what people don't know about you. But if you are here tonight and you're breathing, you've probably walked through some mess. You've probably got some baggage. Which is crazy because if that's just part of the human condition, like just the fact that we are breathing means we probably have walked through something, then why is it that we can so easily convince ourselves we're the only one? I'm the only one that's had to deal with this. I'm the only one that would understand. I'm the only one that's walked through this pain or through this story. I'm the only one that's ever been here. And we convince ourselves that we're the only one in this fight, that no one would understand. But see, we can't fight these secrets. We can't fight these addictions. We can't fight the abuse. We can't fight our struggles. We can't fight our wounds and our scars in the dark. We have to bring them into the light. You're going to mess up. It's part of being alive. You're going to make mistakes. No one's surprised by that. Jesus knew what he was buying on the cross. It's not a secret. It's not a surprise, but you can't fight it alone, and you can't fight it in the dark. You have to light it up. And so Jesus tells this woman, hey, I want you to go get your husband, and I want you to bring him back to me. Now, why? Because the way to experiencing healing is through your story. It's through your wound. It's through your hurt. It's through your anger. It's through your anxiety. It's not in spite of your depression. It's not to the exclusion of what's gone on. It is through that part of your story. That's the way that we experience grace. That's the way that we experience healing. It's through our addiction. Now, we don't know a lot about this woman's story. It really doesn't give us much detail other than the fact that she's a Samaritan and that she's a woman. I mean, maybe she's been widowed 5 times, which makes sense. The guy that she's with is not her 6th husband, because I'm like, no, I don't want my name to be added to that list. Like, I'm not marrying you, right? We don't know what her story is, but we know that something has gone tragic in her life. She's ashamed. She's hiding. And we know this because she comes to the well in the middle of the day. No one goes to the well in the town where they live in the middle of the day. Maybe if you're passing through as Jesus is, okay, you stop and you get something to drink, but if you live there, you go there in the morning. You draw your water for the day. You don't go in the middle of the day, but it's because she's ashamed. It's because she's hiding some things in her life, and so she goes in the middle of the day, but then she meets Jesus. And he doesn't ignore her wounds. He doesn't pretend like everything's okay. He actually leans in to her story. He tells her things about her, things that she thought no one knew. And then he tells her, hey, you want living water? You want restoration? You want healing? Go get your husband and come here. And Jesus works the same way in 2019. You want restoration? You want healing? Bring your dating life and light it up. You want freedom? Bring your porn addiction and light it up. You want to be set free? Bring your history of abuse and light it up. Bring your self-harm and light it up. Bring your anxiety and light it up. Bring your eating disorder and light it up. Bring your depression and light it up. Bring your fear and light it up. Because Jesus is like, I already know anyway. Why are you trying to hide it? Why are you trying to keep it a secret? Because I already know. And I love you. And I choose you. And I accept you. Jesus doesn't say, hey, I need you to be a better person. Hey, I need you to try harder. No, he says, I don't want a better version of you. I want you. We were at Passion a few weeks ago. Matt Chandler gave a talk, and he was talking about this passage, and then he said this comment, and he said, to be 99% known is to be unknown. To be 99% known is to be unknown, and this really stuck with me. Let me explain. You may be 99% known. We talked about some of that 99%, right? You have a reputation. People know you. People talk about you. And I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way, right? But people say things. They know who you are. They know how you dress. They know how you act. They know a lot about your story. You have the 99%, or maybe for you it's 85% that people know. Maybe it's 70% that people know. But we have a part of us that we're known. But even if we're 99% known, we're still unknown because we still have that 1%. Or that 5%, or that 10%, whatever it is for you, we still have that part of our life that it's that struggle, it's that addiction, it's that thing that you keep hiding, that you keep like suppressing and pushing down. It's that eating disorder. It becomes toxic. It eats away on the inside of you. It eats away at your joy. It destroys your relationships. But I love this because Jesus is offering this woman life. In this story, he's offering her hope. He's offering her a better way. And check this out. When Jesus offers her all of those things, she hadn't done anything to deserve it. She's just sitting at the well, having a conversation. When she went back, she still had a guy that she was in a relationship with that wasn't her husband, and we're guessing by the implications that probably wasn't a holy relationship. Okay, they're probably not courting each other. Just guessing. Because of the way Jesus is talking about her. So she still has all this junk in her life. She still has all this mess, but Jesus offers her hope. He offers her love. He offers her forgiveness. Some of you need to get over yourself. We make it about me so often. Like, I'm so terrible, I messed up. But you need to look up because Jesus already knows and he loves you anyway. But I think sometimes we're convinced that God's waiting for us to screw up so that he can just like blow it all up. He can just like get mad at us or he can just take everything away. That's why when we screw up, we run away from God instead of running to God because we're convinced that he's upset with us. We're convinced that he doesn't love us. I want to pick the story back up in verse 27. It says, just then his disciples came back and they were shocked to find him talking to a woman. But none of them had the nerve to ask, what do you want with her? Or why are you talking to her? The woman left her water jar beside the well and ran back to the village, telling everyone, come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could he possibly be the Messiah? Let's jump down to verse 39. Many Samaritans from the village believed in Jesus because the woman had said, he told me everything I ever did. And when they came out to see him, they begged him to stay in their village. So he stayed for 2 days, long enough for many more to hear his message and believe. And it continues. Then they said to the woman, now we believe, not just because of what you told us, but because we have heard him ourselves. Now we know that he is indeed the Savior of the world. Not only does Jesus meet the woman in her hurt, in her shame, in her struggle, but now that her shame is lifted, she runs back into town. And her brokenness becomes a trophy of God's grace. Her wounds become the story that she tells. Her shame no longer is holding her back, and so she runs into town and she tells everyone about what God has done in her life, and people begin to believe in Jesus because of her story, because she chose to light it up. Now, I know there are people here tonight that are walking into this new year, this new semester. You're walking into 2019, and you're carrying stuff. You're carrying shame. You're carrying brokenness. Man, the family drama that you had to endure over the holidays didn't make it much of a break for you. You're like, I'm so glad school started back up. It gives me an excuse to get away. It gives me an excuse to get away from my family, away from the turmoil and the struggle and the strife. And for others of you, you walked back into school and you're like, can we go to summer break? Because home is the only place that you feel safe. Because you don't feel like you have a community. You don't feel like you have people that know you or that love you. And so it doesn't matter what your story is. We all have these things that we're carrying with us, just like this woman is carrying it to the well. You're carrying addiction. There are things that you're known for, but you still have that 1%, that 5%, that 20%. The 1% is taking the joy of the relationships in your life. It's stealing your capacity to believe that God loves this version of you. I know what it feels like to hold on to the 1%. We convince ourselves that that's what's keeping us alive. We convince ourselves that if we were to expose that, if we were to tell people, if people found out about our addictions, if people found out about our self-harm, our abuse, our story, our eating disorder, our anxiety, that would mean death. But I'm telling you, that kind of exposure actually means life. Because here's the deal. Addiction can't live in the light. Anxiety can't live in the light. Depression can't live in the light. Abuse cannot live in the light. So no matter what your story is, no matter what you're carrying into 2019 or carrying into this room tonight, no matter what you have been walking around with, no matter where you are, no matter where you've been, brokenness can't live in the light. So light it up. My hope is that you have some people in your life that you can be honest with. Maybe it's your small group, maybe it's your roommate, maybe it's a best friend, and you can go to them and be honest with them and tell them, it's like, hey, I know we think we know everything about each other, but we don't. I've been holding out, been holding back, got this 1%, this struggle, this brokenness, this trial in my life, and man, I need to come clean. I need somebody to know. I need to shine a light on it. I need to light it up. Or maybe you're here tonight and you're like, Chris, I don't have that. I'm not sure what I believe about this whole God thing. I'm not sure how I feel about this whole light it up thing. Like, I came for the free t-shirt and the free pizza. Well, I'm glad you're here. But if you're here tonight and you're like, Chris, I don't know that I have anyone in my life that I can talk to, I want to hear your story. I want you to find one of our leaders at some point tonight. They're wearing red shirts. They glow in the dark. They're like super bright, okay? Go find one of them in the lobby after service. Go find one of them in the parking lot. Pull them aside. Tell them your story. Tell them what you've been walking through. Tell them what you maybe have never told anyone else before, because it's in the light that you truly live. So don't waste one more day hiding. Don't waste one more day trying to keep it a secret. Because here, you're going to find love and acceptance and grace. Here, you're going to find people and a God that love you and love this version of you. So light it up. Let's pray.